turn that off auto? It's up. Sweet.
Oh yeah, I don't need to record actually.
Just the same.
Yeah, that's what audio means.
Welcome back to our live stream. We're just waiting there to get the mic hooked up. Can you just give us a thumbs up if you can see us and hear us okay? That'd be great. Also, obviously today is a live Q&A, so if you have questions, you just want to start popping the questions up and we'll get to your question first.
Let me load across your face. Lefty tighty, righty loosey, remember?
It's different when you're upside down.
That's what I said.
Okay, 21 people online. Oh, wait.
19 of them are robots.
Why can I not see the chat?
Trying to think this. The guns.
What's that?
The guns. Let's pass out some flexing.
Okay. Oh, now we can see the chat.
It's like Lynx Africa.
Lynx Africa is the best body spray, stroke deodorant, stroke antiperspirant. Seeker Strength Atomic Ones 2.0 program. That's going to be 2022. Double deuces. Do you need to clap for that? Oh, we've got plenty of questions already.
Fuck's sake. Jesus Christ.
Right. Welcome back to our live stream. We're going to run through some of the initial questions there. Okay. So everyone can see us and hear us okay. That's great. Will my dad finally accept me if I hit 200 kilos in the squat? As long as it's 200 kilos and not 200 pounds, I'd say he'll probably accept you. We don't know really, though. Basically Father Ted, but who was who?
Basically Father
I'm
Ted.
definitely Father Jack.
Yeah, it's what the facts like. What are your opinions on steroid use for people not competing?
Work away.
Yeah. No real strong opinion on either way. It's up to people to educate yourself on the whole subject and then decide if that is something you want to do. Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion for or against it. I think parents kind of got up in arms about educating recreational users. I think that is definitely something that is worthwhile, definitely very important for more research.
Yeah.
Some people make the argument that that's definitely a true argument. Is very, very likely. If they hadn't been demonized like they were, there'd be much safer compounds here at the moment on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Which I think is a funny thing. So the irony of
demonizing them.
Yeah, has actually made them unsafe or kept them unsafe. Whereas if they weren't demonized, they would be in a position to have safer compounds developed. So obviously, there's people that do studies on the ones that are currently in use, and these are the effects of those, the side effects or whatever. But people just keep rehashing the same stuff, But it's like developing new ones that people could use would be the real. Yeah, because people are going to use them anyway, It's
my whole issue on this topic is it's not our right to have any opinion over what other people decide to do for themselves. Do you know what I mean? You're not competing. You're not doing it like, no matter who you are, you shouldn't really have an opinion over, or like your opinion doesn't mean anything over what anyone else does. Like, if you want to wear a yellow t-shirt, wear a yellow t-shirt.
It would be very interesting to see what would be there now. So I think Project said to us on one of the podcasts that the last anabolic steroid developed was something in the 1982 range, I think, it's the early 1980s. So that, in terms of like pharmaceutical development,
My God,
that is literally a different. It's like going from the Stone Age to the age where now, like, it's such a development. You know, there was like just not even comparable how different there would be and how much safer they probably would be and how much more effective. Some people try to make the argument that SARMs are a development of that, and I think SARMs aren't really in reality what that is. You know,
SARMs are a divergent path, I think, in a slightly wrong direction.
Is that outside?
Outside, yeah. Okay, tips on growing a thicker beard. Also, would an athlete with long hair be thrown off if shaving his head for Olympic lifting? No. In terms of the amount of proprioceptive, like, scientifically speaking, the amount of proprioceptive feedback you get isn't really related. Like, you get very little proprioceptive feedback from your scalp. There are certain cases where having like a thicker beard or more hair on your head, particularly on your temples, might be advantageous. That's mainly for people who get hit in the head a lot. But for weightlifters, it'll make virtually no difference.
Favorite list for strengthening the lower back: garage, gym, friendly. So the main one would be prone back extensions, where you just lie on the ground, hands behind your head. It's like a reverse crunch, and you curl up backwards and hold that one. That's probably one of the favorites. And then the other one I really like is barbell rows from the hang, but try and get your back in almost a stiff-legged deadlift position. So you're not, you know, some people kind of have a kind of 45-degree angle back and then a lot of flexion in their knees. But I'm talking about like really hang your shoulders over. It's like you're doing an RDL position and rolling from there. If you go super heavy with them, it's actually good for your lower back in terms of it needs to fight that isometric position. So it needs to fight staying static in the same position. So I really like those for those barbell rows because it makes you kind of resist the downward momentum and hold that position, which is ultimately what you want to be doing with your lower back training is static positions. And so resisting weights like that are very useful. And then I know Fitz enjoys good mornings, but I'm not a huge fan of good mornings.
Yeah.
Also, another thing to add to this, if I told you you should do some RDLs, what would you be targeting with your RDLs?
Always hamstrings.
So, interesting little story on this, right? RDLs. So
Go on.
Niku Vlad again.
Interest me.
Niku Vlad again.
Yeah.
So he was in Jim Schmidt's gym. Jim Schmidt's a joke.
Schmidt.
So one of the Ironman riders in San Francisco, I think his gym was. He had Niku Vlad and Niku Vlad's coach over, who subsequently stayed in America, actually did some coaching.
Yeah.
And Niku Vlad started doing RDLs, and no one had ever seen them before. And someone was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And he was like, these RDLs, these are for my back, for the clean. Yeah.
Yeah, but is it the same way as in like, oh, you need to use your back more in the clean, but it's also like back, hamstrings, and glutes?
No, if you're doing RDLs the way they describe them in that, it does get your lower back. So what he does is, he does a pull from the floor. So it's thingy emphasized. So you do the same clean position from the floor.
Yeah.
You don't lock out your extension, and then you hold the extension, and then you lean forward and backwards. So they're not.
Oh yeah, that would target your back a lot
They're
more.
not for your hamstrings.
Yeah.
I think they're quite a poor exercise for your hamstrings in general.
If you were to pick that off a rack at hip height and walk back, and you get like super set up in that position, you can target your hamstrings like a motherfucker.
But that's not what the RDL was. So that originally wasn't what it was. So I'll actually post the link to that. I'll find it in a minute. But so the RDLs were originally for people's backs. So Niku obviously had a phenomenal clean.
Yeah.
So clean something at 235, probably at like 100. I think he cleaned dirty 40 in training. So they're another good one. I did them the way if you try and focus on your lower back or your back for your clean, they actually are quite useful.
Next thing was, any thoughts or experience with the McGill Big 3 for lower back pain? Stuart McGill is a phenomenal resource.
Unbelievable.
Like very like a leader in the area. If you want to read stuff with strength and conditioning or like biomechanics stuff, go and read Stuart McGill's stuff. He's very, very good. I like the McGill Big Three. I like almost everything he puts out. And I think he has a great way of explaining things.
The thing with the McGill Big Three is that when you're doing them, you need to be doing them consistently. So sometimes people will do like once or twice a week. But his recommendation for the McGill Big Three is that you do them every day, regardless if you're injured or not. Another really interesting thing McGill has talked about is like CNS adaptation. He's talked about some really interesting stuff. I was only a few weeks ago listening on Mark Bell's podcast. And he's talking about like neural stacking and how the best athletes are like the kind of the best neurological function or whatever. I'd love to try to get him on the podcast and talk about
I'd love to get him on the podcast.
I might try actually get him on him. We should try to do that because I think he might be open to it. Just talk about that in particular. Because I know he's a back guy, but I don't have a lot of interest in listening to people talk about injury rehab.
No.
Unless I have that right now.
Yeah.
But in general, I just doesn't something it's not something I've ever interested in.
Okay. Next on isometric core work, like plank versus dynamic. I think we've probably hashed out this subject a lot. But myself and Gerf are both very much in the isometric core bracket. Like that's what we prefer. That's what we give our athletes. Now, our athletes still do something. Oh, I broke my coffee stirrer. I've been playing with this all week. And we're very much in the isometric camp, right? So although we give like V-ups, hanging leg raises, GHD, back extensions, reverse hypers, we give some dynamic core work, but we very much focus on the isometric stuff purely because most of the time your back gets in trouble. It's coming out of an isometric contraction basically. Also, isometric contractions tend to be a lot more effective in training athletes than a concentric contraction. Obviously, eccentric contractions are very, very useful, but most of the time, for me anyway, when I'm coaching people and when we're writing our programs, we tend to just be chasing those certain levels of isometric core prerequisites that I want every athlete to hit.
The core questions come up so often in these live streams. I think we should do a bit more comprehensive videos on it.
Yeah.
Because it comes up so often.
Okay. This is a good one. Best plate loading aesthetic for big numbers, i.e. 100 kilos, 2 blues or a red and a yellow.
What's the question?
So if you're loading 100 kilos, what's the best way to load it aesthetically?
Yeah. Oh, 2 blues, like.
It's 2 blues every day.
2 big blues, like.
Yeah, 2 blue bumper
Actually,
plates.
No.
No, I swear to God, if you go red, green,
yeah,
2.5 and a collar,
absolutely.
no lights.
So much better.
No,
so much better.
You're not at European Juniors. Like.
Absolutely, so much better. It's way better.
Okay, for everyone else normal talking, it's 2 blues.
So the code is Nico just shrugged his shoulders instead of making his back strong for the clean. So that's Dragomir. Yeah. Dragomir was his coach.
Dragomir.
What a name for his coach.
Dedicated grip training for strength athletes, yay or nay? Yay if they have grip issues, nay if they don't. To be honest, Aiden's the only person I can think of right now who I'm involved in coaching who does any grip training.
And by God does he need it.
And by God does he need it. But also...
He's naming these calluses like, but...
There's something to do with the calluses.
No, you fucking grip on like...
Okay, would you look at some swimmers S&C?
Whoa, you missed... Oh, sorry.
No need to apologize so frequently. S&C Florent Madau has a 150 kilo seal row. Fairly mental, that 150 kilos on a seal row is absolutely absurd.
It's very hard to cheat with those.
Yeah.
Will we do the swimmers?
Yeah, we might do the swimmers in the next few weeks.
Because I'd love to go for a swim in a swimming pool.
In a pool?
Yeah, I love swimming pools.
Pools don't do it for me. I love the sea. I was in the sea last week. Far too cold to be enjoyable, though. If Laurel Hubbard wins medals in Tokyo, should there be an asterisk next to her name? No.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, there.
This is this dude. The strength. No, this isn't even him. Fucking hell.
Train like him. Oh, that's so annoying.
I don't want to train like him. Must be. You know, I was thinking about the thing with the Laurel Hubbard thing, right? And everyone in the world is obviously like, you know, it went viral there like 2 weeks ago or last week, and everyone is like, oh, look, this is wrong. Everyone and their fucking monkey and their aunt's monkey and their monkey's aunt could see it was wrong.
Yeah.
But when she comes and she ends up meddling now, nothing will happen. Just be like, she meddled, and there's nothing I can do about it. It won't change,
I really just think people need to stop being like picking her as like the thing, because Laurel isn't the issue in any way. Like, Laurel is an athlete who wants to go and compete in the class she wants to compete in. That's it. Like, that's the same extent. If you want to go to the Olympics, you'd obviously want to compete in whatever class.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is like a ruling, and people need to figure out if that ruling is fair or not. But you need to stop. Like, I think people need to stop focusing on.
Don't pick up this dude.
No.
Like,
I'm not. And Lucas, I'm not picking on you in particular at all.
You're saying you like.
No, I'm saying ye.
Luke is asking a very, very relevant question. That's what I'm waiting for right now.
Yeah, sorry, Luke. If you felt targeted by that, I'm sorry. But I don't think we need to be focusing on Laurel as a thing. We need to be focusing on if it's fair in sporting in general, not just in this one particular case.
Jesus, swimmer dude is fucking juicy.
Oh my god!
Look how juicy he is.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So he's doing like power cleans in the bench. What's he squatting here?
The size of him.
He's a big.
This is Florent Manado.
Not bad spots for a swimmer. Like,
no.
What's he benching? 120 kilos of happiness. That's all right.
That's legit.
Do you know,
for a few reps?
Do you know when you see?
Look at the shape he's in.
He's in great shape. You know when you see good athletes go to the gym, they just never have any stability. It's so funny. They're always like this. It's so. What are they doing in the gym? But half of it's stability training. Like, it's always so funny. Like, they have zero for some of the best athletes in the world, the best body control.
Yeah. They
go to the gym, and then it's like they forget that they're actually a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, like no proprioception.
When they're looking around as well.
Yeah.
Doing RDLs, and they're like this,
Yeah.
And you're like, buddy, pick one spot. Yeah, he's in great shape. I'd say. I'd like to see this 150 row if someone could link it. If you could link that 150 seal row, I'd be very impressed. 145 bench. Now, I know he's 11,000 feet tall, but still very impressive. I hope his spotter doesn't spot him. Holy shit. Oh my god, this is for a few. Someone's pretty juicy.
Yeah.
Oh, we should definitely do this. We'll definitely do that. Here's the seal row. Sorry now for interrupting, but this is very impressive.
This is mental.
No straps.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ, that's impressive.
Will you put a link to that in the chat so people can watch it? Anyway, next thing. Best approach to neck training for grappling athletes. Best approach and like the safest approach is to start with some isometric work. In my opinion, the best way to start isometric work is start on like your strongest muscle groups first, just to get used to it. Usually the posterior of the neck. So what essentially ends up being the tops of your traps are probably the most used to training. You should start there. So put like a very thin pillow on the floor, lie down flat with the back of your head on the pillow, and you can just press into the pillow and just hold that isometrically. Start off with 15 to 20 seconds. Do multiple holds for maybe 3 days a week for a number of weeks. You can do the exact same on the side and on the front. Just start with those, be able to hold the contraction for a long time before you go into any sort of rep work. But to be honest, people get very, 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 very good, thick, strong necks from a lot of isometric work without ever needing to go to dynamic neck work. The issue with dynamic neck work and why I wouldn't be getting you to go there immediately is because most grappling or contact sports athletes probably have pre-existing issues with their neck or shoulders, and any sort of additional, like my neck is shagged now and I haven't played ball in 7 years. So like playing ball.
I think after that, so once you've kind of gotten fairly adept at any kind of neck training, if you haven't done it yet, I would say, progressing to something that is very objectively loadable after that. So something that is without a shadow of doubt what it is you're loading. So don't go from doing those isometrics that Fitz mentioned to doing headstands and rocking on your head, or doing those neck rolls where you lie, the thing you see Mike Tyson doing where he's rolling around like this.
No.
So neck training, train it to a full range of motion. So those neck pads you see, these machines, I think they're a great apparatus for neck training. Neck training obviously is something you want to be very, very diligent with, very careful with. So if you're going to do it, definitely get one of those, some apparatus that you can load very, very specifically. Then you lie on the bench and you go forward and backwards or side to side. I think there's nothing wrong with that once you've gotten a certain level of proficiency. And then you can start loading that up very, very appropriately. So you can start loading it, 1 kilos, and then it's 2.5 kilos. There's no issue with that. So you want to be able to fully in control of your net training, because there is nothing you want to fuck up less than your neck.
No. And somebody's fucked up there.
So you fucked up, huh?
Huh? How can I improve my speed getting under the bar? I'm going to give you a very, very simple answer. 2 things, and then Gareth is going to give you the weightlifting specific way. The first way is to get a lot more mobile. So a lot of us are really slow getting under the bar, and we prefer power snatch or power cleaning due to the fact that you're tight in the bottom position and not comfortable there. So get comfortable in the bottom position is my first thing. And then the second thing is start training with fast weightlifters. So a lot of the time you'll hear people about going to competitions, or when they see certain weightlifters training, you will not get an idea for just how fast people are until you actually start training with them and seeing them training in person. Videos almost never give you a true insight.
The most important thing with getting under the barbell is trying to get under the barbell faster. So obviously prerequisites to that are good technique and good mobility, but then getting under faster is literally just trying to win by literally trying to get under faster. The only way you can get under faster is by actually trying to do it. Speed comes from trying. When you're walking along, it's the same thing. You don't accidentally start running. You just don't. You're not talking to your buddy. Maybe fits there and walk over to town, and I don't know where I start sprinting for no reason.
No,
it doesn't happen unless you get something. You're dyspraxic. Ultimately, the speed comes from the intention behind you wanting to go faster, and so you also have to be trying to go faster. Now, the prerequisite with that is good technique, of course, for weightlifting. Because good technique facilitates or it implies good timing. So once you have good timing, then you are able to increase the timing of each one of those because you're in control of it. So figure out your technique, but then also always try to be getting under faster, because if you don't, you won't ever get faster.
Vassal asks, sorry, there's a few comments here to say hi, love to see the commentary. Vassal asks, what's the driving factor for strength, neural drive, or question mark? Neural adaptation is a driving factor for strength adaptation.
So you have muscle hypertrophy, so more muscle tissue. You have coordination. You have neural adaptation. You have antagonist coactivation. And then you have
the essence of it is
motor unit recruitment.
Yeah.
And the speed of motor unit recruitment would be driving factors. Most of them get to a pretty good level after a certain period of time, and then ultimately it comes down to your genetics. And then for things outside of for absolute strength, eventually everything is limited by what the muscle tissue you have. So most things are accruing new muscle tissue and then learning how to use this new muscle tissue and then incorporating it into this kind of full neural network. And then you get better at this, and then you get really good, and then you get a little bit more muscle tissue. We're talking about 0.5 gram of muscle tissue, for natty people, basically for over a year. And then you incorporate this new muscle tissue, and then you keep going like that. And that essentially is strength training.
Yeah, essentially everything except muscle hypertrophy is neural adaptation, or you have some connective tissue adaptation, but it's almost entirely neural. Hello from South Africa. Yes, America hears you. Any specific tips for taller lifters over 6'4"?
Don't bother.
Number one,
body
specific.
weight.
What?
It has to be body weight.
Yeah. It actually is. I was going to give something different.
I don't want to get fat. Oh, exactly.
Body weight and just being a bigger person. Because a lot of 6 foot tall or 6'4" or above, when they're lifting with the relative proportions of lever length to muscle tissue of a 65 kilo girth height person, really skinny, The other thing I really would say, and this is very specific for weightlifters, if you want to be good at weightlifting and you're tall, you need quad strength. No tall person has any quad strength because their natural default is to push their hips back. Their squat always becomes posterior dominance. It's just the fact that nature of living life as a taller person, you have to be more posteriorly dominant than anteriorly dominant. So my major thing is build actual quad strength, and be that through whatever means you need, and then just look after your back, because especially if your back is relatively long in comparison to your femurs, it's going to be very, very challenging to push yourself hard without getting a few owies in the back.
I'm going to just say something that might hurt. It's not that big a disadvantage. You just need to learn how to lift.
It's really not.
It's really not. People, and it happens so often, people are like, I'm really tall. I'm not attacking you, totes, the goats. Not a bad name. But
That's a funny name.
this question comes up all the time, like, any tips for tall lifters? No, just keep fucking lifting like everyone else. Do what you need to do to get stronger. The biggest thing tall lifters won't do, and then it's probably like, it's the most useful one, you have to gain body weight, essentially. If you're a taller lifter, you have to weigh more. You can't be 6'4" and weighing 90 kilos. Like,
no.
You just can't be. And ultimately, everything you do will be a fruitless endeavor unless you acknowledge that to a certain extent. You know, it just won't work. Like, you have to have favorable leverages with your body height and the length. Like, you need extra mass.
Erico Oliveira says, what's cracking, lads? Not much is cracking. It's Friday. We have a great video for this evening. And that's it, really. Gareth's doing his jaw exercises. For longevity, what do you think is better to focus on, hypertrophy or strength training? This is, once again, not to have a shot at you, David B.
I feel like you're about to have a shot at David B here. You know what? I'm not being a bitch, or I'm not racist, but go on, anyway. Yeah.
Why is this something that you even need to consider?
Why is that to either or?
Why does it have to either or? You're not going to do a load of hypertrophy training without getting some strength training inadvertently done. You're also not going to do any strength training without inadvertently gaining some muscle mass. So like a well-rounded approach to training is so much more beneficial than either of these, you know. Obviously, hypertrophy is incredibly important, especially as you get older, especially if you're a female and you start to get the oncomings of sarcopenia. But there's a host of other factors that are beneficial from doing both hypertrophy training and strength training. They're the exact same modality with slight alterations in volume and loading. It's just not, longevity is all about balance. It's all about balance, you know.
Just a question.
And you don't.
If someone can make you angry, they've mastered you, so relax.
No, I'm not angry. I'm just, this is something I've thought about a lot. And yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
A lot of longevity questions recently.
Yeah.
Who win in the fight? 15 anti-Joshuas or an elephant?
An elephant.
Great question, but an elephant for sure. An elephant. Even 15.
Elephants.
Even a baby elephant would still.
A baby elephant would kill the man.
An unarmed. You should see the size of an elephant rump. It's a tiny missile. Not even. It's a small missile. Not even a tiny missile.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is it better to start off with powerlifting as fundamental strength to transfer to Olympic weightlifting? Or would you recommend directly starting Olympic weightlifting? Just start weightlifting. Just start it. You don't need to do, like, the bigger a base you have before you start, the more beneficial it is. But the second you want to be a weightlifter, you need to go and start weightlifting. The second, if it's today or if it's last week, you need to start right now. Ideally, you would have been a gymnast for a few years and then you did a load of general strength training. And now you're coming in with a really, really good base and you're 15. But besides that, you just need to start weightlifting if you want to be a weightlifter.
Yeah, so like the transfer of strength is something that, or like how you use that strength will only happen. You'll get more out of that strength per kilo if you do it in conjunction with trying to learn the Olympic lifts. So if a lifter has a 200 kilo squat coming into it, with no Olympic lifting experience, you will have less of a ratio. Your ratios will very kind of skewed, essentially, unless you're incredibly talented athletes. For most people, you need to develop the strength alongside the Olympic lifting technique to make use of it, to get it. I suppose God strike me down for saying making that strength functional for weightlifting.
Okay, Archer says, how to fit upper back tightness or unable to flex lumbar spine to get into a backstroke front squat position, trying to get an overweight friend to do some squats. If somebody is in a position where they're detrained, and so I wouldn't call it like flexion of the lumbar spine because it's not flexion, like that's a natural curve. So neutral lumbar spine is slightly an extension. In this case, right, where somebody is so tight or so physically illiterate that they're not able to get underneath the barbell, then the barbell really isn't for them. And I would be starting with a med ball, a dumbbell, a kettlebell, an assisted squat. If everything is so restricted that just getting yourself kind of mentally organized or physically organized before you do the squat, then you really shouldn't be squatting, you know. And you'll get a much more bang for your buck from something else. There's a host of things that you can do, like a safety squat bar. You could do a front squat where they're not fully front racking the bar. They could be crossing over. They could be using 2 straps. But yeah, I wouldn't, if you have somebody who's like really, really, really uncomfortable with a bar in their back, I probably just wouldn't put a bar in their back.
Who would win 15 anti-Joshua's or one? And there's a good chance those 15 anti-Joshua's would win.
I'd say the 15 heavyweight boxing champions would beat Owen Murphy in a fight.
Not in the street fight, obviously. Like, it'd be totally different.
Hey, you let have knives.
Because I've got knives, like, do you use R1348? So that sounds like a SARM.
That's definitely a SARM.
No, it's a gas you put into fridges, I think, or ignition. I need to fix my
sorry. Is that... Because, Joe, when you suck the gas out the back of a fridge, you get really low voice.
Whoa.
No, I saw that on TV. It's like the opposite of... So, is it Freon gas is in fridges? Apparently, there's a gas that lives in fridges. And if you suck it, it's like the opposite of helium and you get a really low voice. Don't suck the gas in the back of your fridge. Right.
If you have to tell someone that, it's probably too late for that person already.
Are you going to try the 5-minute mile and 500 bench squat again? Not right now.
You will at some point.
I have no idea. No.
I think so.
Oh no! I'm just saying I don't know right now. I'm not training for it now. Like no way. Okay. Any general tips regarding the overhead stability in the snatch, especially when catching low? No matter what I try, my snatch remains unstable AF.
Got it. Better than a tip for you. We're
just going to link the week overhead snatch program for you.
This is exactly.
We've answered this question 100 times, and it's always like you need to do some training with this accessory work.
So the accessory work we usually tell people to do is single arm overhead walks, snatch your pressing, snatch your push press,
bottoms up kettlebell presses,
and overhead squats. You just need to do all of those. There's an option here, right? Weak overhead, and I tell you, it's got one of the fix your snatch programs. I'm just going to link it in the chat there. You know, project called these is fucking frequently answered questions, and it's not people's fault because they can't have possibly seen all of their stuff.
But the other thing, I'm just going to note this on the point of the program, because this seems like we're shilling programs. There's a lot of questions we answered like this, where people expect a technical cue, like, you know, they expect it to be like, be more patient in your second pull, or whatever it is, like catch the bar and pause for 3 sets every time you warm up. In essence, a lot of the stability stuff, like you're going to need to train for a number of months before it'll get better. It's not a technical cue where you change the position of the bar and then suddenly the lift is fixed. This is a structural issue, and it will therefore take much, much longer to get over.
How do I avoid overextending, staying extended during heavy lifts in order to get under the bar quick? Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great one.
That's evidence this before. Right, so this is, I'll tell you now, is shit technique. This is what this is. So you just, those are heavy weights. You just have poor technique, poor timing, essentially is the issue with this. So strength can help with this. Essentially, this is a poor timing of rushing your second pull. And if that's what's happening, usually that's either bad timing or you are weak in the upper body. Sometimes people overextend with the lower body because they're not pulling correctly with their upper body. And then that could be from a weak upper body or just a lack of ability to use your upper body. But again, all this is coming back to just poor technique, essentially, overextending. And I understand a lot of times as well, when it happens to cleans, this thing we talk about a lot is people over pull cleans too much. And this is coming from the fact that you're not used to getting under the bar, you're making too much contact, which again is poor technique. So this one is either fix your technique or Sinazolol. So this could be any number of technique issues or technical issues. So try to figure out which one it is. But that is the area you need to be honing on, is addressing your technique and your timing.
Okay, Bavlander the Great asks, if you're interested in getting into weightlifting but don't have access to a coach, would it be better to focus on getting stronger on movements like, I think that's squat, or try to teach yourself to snatch and clean and jerk? Very much the latter. If you want to get better at weightlifting, you really just have to do weightlifting. No matter how much bigger your squat gets, and no matter how much stronger your pull is or faster your pull is, the more powerful you are, you at some point you just have to do lifts. And coaching yourself isn't ideal. Remote coaching isn't ideal if you've never done the lifts before, but you can get remote coaching if you've never done the lifts. But yeah, you need to start doing the lifts now. Okay. Thomas Wright says, how do I develop ankle stiffness? One foot starts flapping around on runs after a kilometer or so. I wonder, is it his right leg?
That's the question, will you, for fuck's sake?
So there's two things, Thomas, right? Ankle stiffness, as you kind of rightly probably pointed out at this point, is one of the most important things in running pace. What you need to look at is fatigue is an issue with this, and then there's actual structural integrity of the ankle is an issue as well. In the case of fatigue, you need to do more capacity runs, right? So if you're running kilometers at a 5 minute per kilometer pace, and that's what you run like your 5 to 10 Ks at, or 3 to 5 Ks at, what you need to do is you need to start doing capacity running at a significantly faster pace. So you might do 8 500 meter runs at a 4 minute per kilometer pace, and you keep going at those capacity runs to try and induce that same level of fatigue, right? So you need to go above pace. If I assume you're training for like a 5K, say, for example. The second thing is the actual structural integrity of the ankle. Because of the thickness and the just hardiness of your Achilles tendon, it's quite difficult to gain any sort of structural tissue there. So you might need to start like thinking about lengthening it out. Are you taking the stirrer off me? You might need to start thinking about lengthening out your Achilles. So doing things like very, very slow and controlled tempo calf raises, and any sort of like a sissy squat where you're coming up on your heels at the end, but very, very slow and controlled. But I would go to the capacity runs first, focusing on really good technique at above race pace, and then bring that onto the road after a few months and see how you get on.
Good question.
Great question.
So Chris Dance says, push jerk is a main lift, catching high with a narrow grip for more upper body engagement for sports. The answer is no, but maybe, right? So I would say, first of all, look at what you're trying to get out of stuff like overhead work for athletes, for more upper body stuff. So maybe if you're some kind of thrower, discus, hammer, whatever, you definitely get some benefit from doing stuff like push jerks. Most people, right, and I'd see why you might want to do a push jerk instead of a split jerk. What I would probably do is behind the neck jerks if I was going to do it with an athlete, unless that athlete was particularly talented. So most people are very, very poor at the jerk in general, even if they're just doing weightlifting. Even if they're talented athletes initially, it takes a long time for them to learn how to do the jerk, and push jerk in general, or split jerk. So you would get the benefits, I think, from a behind the neck jerk. It's usually much, much easier. You can go much faster, which realistically is probably what you're looking for from a jerk for an athlete. It's just speed production, power production. So you can go a lot faster. You can get that change of speed, which is very, very useful from the jerk as well. So extending and contracting. So some people would make the argument that most sports, the most important thing is how fast can an athlete relax his muscle tissue and then re-engage it again. And so stuff like split jerks in particular, or behind the neck jerks, teach you that very, very well if you can do it correctly. So I'll probably do behind the neck jerks, but probably a split jerk, but a power jerk would do okay from behind the neck as well, I would think.
Yeah, I think power jerk from behind the neck with a slightly wider than normal grip is great.
Yeah, I wouldn't be going with the narrow grip for more upper body, because you don't really get more upper body from it, to be honest. It'll just make the lift more difficult and you'll get less out of it, because unlikely most athletes are pretty tight overhead as they're not used to doing that range of motion. So I would say be looking at behind the neck, kind of somewhere in the back squat grip, so like slightly wider shoulder grip, probably out here, or even a little bit wider, would probably be something you're better off doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, how to strengthen an IT band. Getting pain above the knee on the side when squatting 3-4 days now. So IT band runs like, if this was my quad, this was my quad. IT band runs laterally along the outside. IT band issues there's a number of things that come into play. We don't answer injury questions as a rule here, right? But I'm going to point to the IT band and just talk about one or two things. People oftentimes when squatting really favor their lateral side of their quads. So they'll have knees out to the side, they'll have hips turned back, and they'll have something akin to a low bar squat style with high bar positions. This really does put most of the emphasis laterally on our legs. So both anteriorly and posteriorly, your quads and your hamstrings develop laterally much quicker than they do medially. So you're left with an underdeveloped VMO, probably an underdeveloped rec fem as well because of that. But you need to start thinking about altering your squat stance. So as you're not just loading everything onto your vas lateralis, those big chunks on the outside of your legs, I think that will make a big difference. Test your IT band for shortness. I can't think of the name of the test, but test your IT band for shortness and see, do you have like excessive shortness on one side or tightness on one side, and just see how that is. But that's about as far into the injury stuff as we'll go.
I would say as well, if it's got an issue now, usually your body is great at like telling you if something is going to happen much worse down the line. So get on top of this now and try to figure out what it is, because I can guarantee you in 6 months to 2 years' time, it's going to be a much worse injury and you're going to regret not paying attention to it at the moment. God knows.
Oh, I know what the injury will be.
Yeah.
Quadriceps tendonitis. Every time.
So where that's
if my squat is 175, would you still recommend the 180 or less squat program?
Yeah.
Or yeah. That's what we call it, 180 or less.
Yeah. Hey. That's a reasonable question for Ivor.
No, it's completely reasonable.
Ivor tits.
But we get this a lot. If your squat is 180, you should still get the 180 or less.
Front to high bar to low bar optional ratios. So front squat has no bearing on your back squat, low bar or high bar in powerlifting. We just don't see it. The front squat has much bearing on your back squat, and as dumbbell bench will have in your back squat in powerlifting. Just what we see from that, for whatever reason that is. High bar to low bar.
Just depends where you train more.
I'd say if you were one of our athletes and you'd be focusing on high bar being your main assistance movement for your powerlifting, probably like see something like 80%. You should be able to high bar 80%, maybe a little bit less, but anything less than that, and you're probably looking at you probably have a weakness. Or if you want to reframe that as a positive thing, you have an opportunity to get stronger.
Yeah. Room to grow.
So if you're back squatting low bar 200 and you can high bar like 180, maybe even 175, I think you're doing quite good. That is a good ratio. Actually, you could probably even get a little bit lower than that, maybe like 75% or so. But if we're talking like you back squat 200 kilos and you can barely high bar 140, then we've got a significant opportunity to increase your low bar squat there and a lot of room to improve.
Improve? Much room for improve.
Come dine with me. Most of your squat training in powerlifting for non-equipped lifters, as I did say, non-gear lifters, should be the vast majority of your driving volume will be high bar to facilitate growth, and then the low bar will be to acknowledge this progress and then learn how to kind of improve that.
Right,
go on.
No.
Front rack question. Garth is the most suspicious front rack of any pro lifter I've seen. Hey, I'm not a pro. How dare you go there? How do you coach your guys to get more flexible in this area?
Make these smaller.
Yeah, don't do any bicep stuff.
Stop doing bicep stuff. Loosen and roll your lats.
Thoracic spine.
Supinated grip hangs from a pull-up bar.
Yeah. There's a great one as well. If you like prone on a bench on your back. That's not prone, on your back. Supine grip. And then fucking as much as you can, all the way back. Put a little bit of weight in it. One thing as well, weirdly enough, that will help your acquisition is single arm overhead walks. They are great. Oftentimes, this kind of, if you bring your arms really close together, you'll feel a lot of tightness in here. They're good for loosening that out. They're good for front rack position. To an extent, and I've actually seen Aaron Horsley kind of used this as well recently, and I don't know if it's something. I know he wasn't too positive about it before, but using straps on your front squats, I think, in conjunction with everything else, is very, very useful. So if you are you're very proactive with all your own mobility, it's a nice little cherry in the top, but it won't do it by itself. Because my God, will you hurt your elbows? Will you get some elbow obviously?
My God.
Don't have the requisite flexibility. So if you're missing some of it, it can certainly help with it and it can reinforce it. But if you don't have any front rack mobility, my God, nothing sore than sore elbows on a clean.
Jacob asks, best and quickest way to move from high bar to low bar squat in the middle of a training program. There isn't one. I wouldn't move from high bar to low bar. When we talk about moving from high bar to low bar, people continuously do the low bar as skills practice, and they train their high bar mostly, and then we'll focus or we'll shift their focus from high bar to low bar as they get close to the competition. Shifting from one to the other, it's two different exercises, and you're going to get, as somebody who had actually, I got an avulsion fracture on my collarbone where my pec attached in because I was like, fuck it, I'm going to max low bar and max my low bar after 3 or 4 weeks of coming from high bar. Like it's a terrible, terrible idea, and don't do it. I'll give that to you as a definite, and we don't speak in definites too often. If you want to see that video, go to my Instagram.
Next question is Mark, oh sorry, you all remember squat. All right, I saw this video, the squat display machine. We don't want to talk about it, right?
Okay.
You don't want to see it. You don't even know its existence. You have to try and forget about it.
Is Mark Rippletoes a good resource for general people?
No, I actually don't think he is.
That's what I'm going to say, right? I read this earlier.
Yeah. And we don't talk
Mark,
shit.
We don't talk shit about it. And I am
coaches.
not talking shit at him. Right?
But
I don't think starting strength is a good thing for most people to learn.
Yeah.
If they want to be good strength and conditioning coaches or practitioners. But
yeah,
I also think
that
if people want to be good practitioners of strength and conditioning, they should be able to pick up a book in biochemistry or actual physics and be able to read that book without too much like, oh God, I don't know what's happening here.
They should be smart. Like that's the same for any endeavor.
Not be smart, but be able to understand the actual things that are going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Understand very, very basic levels of science.
But the problem is, right, with Mark Rippletoe is if everyone listens to Mark Rippletoe, they'd be fat and on TRT.
Yeah.
So I don't think Mark Rippletoe has said enough stuff talking shit on like scientific endeavors by where I can't.
The
phenomenology he calls it, i.e. where I can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
So sometimes we've done a whole podcast and it's like science versus like coaching, whatever. Like sometimes people like to use science as a way of defending their methods, right? Even though it doesn't really like they're like the scientific method. We know what we're talking about, right? So it's not all it's not a good pillar to hide behind sometimes, right? But completely ignoring science, I'm just telling people to drink a gallon of milk and do squats and power cleans. While it might not be a bad way of getting stronger, it's certainly not a bad way for general people to be better at life or just to live longer and healthier. Andres, yes. No, I'm joking. So this is like last time. This video did quite a bit of engagement when they put up this clip from the last time, right? From he said she retire after 180 total, right? Weightlifting might not. Less than 1% of people are going to be good at weightlifting realistically, right? Of people who do
way less than 1.
Less than 1, right? Less than 1%. But for everyone else, everyone can still enjoy weightlifting, you know. So unless for some reason your financial well-being and wealth is tied up in weightlifting, just keep weightlifting. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the process. You can still improve. You just might not be great, and that doesn't matter. Yes, this video talked about your motivation. And if your motivation is numbers and it's not doing it for you, then the answer might be to give up. Not saying it isn't, but it might also be that your motivation is you just really like weightlifting.
I think in general, if you want to have an enjoyable recreational career in weightlifting or powerlifting or any sort of strength sport, you need to be much more process and growth minded or like a growth mindset or process mindset or process motivation that you need to be outcome driven. And the outcomes are like the cherry on top, you know, like you have to enjoy training. And weightlifting can be incredibly enjoyable when you're training it, but it won't give you the heebie-jeebies every time you go to the gym, you know. It won't be that enjoyable. So don't give up. Does hook grip pain go away eventually? No. Did we answer a question like this yesterday? Is that on members live stream?
It was somewhere.
Okay,
Asked this.
we definitely I think it might have been on the Facebook members page, but does hook grip pain go away eventually, right?
Not for deadlifting.
Not for deadlifting. So there's a thing that happens where you basically get the deadening of nerve endings, like those receptors deaden off after a while. So you'll see a lot of people get like this black lump on their back from squatting, where you get this deadening off of nerve fiber, right? That doesn't happen in your thumbs because the amount of nerve tissue, due to the fact you have so much fine motor control in your hands, the amount of nerve tissue in your thumbs is gigantic. So that doesn't happen. So the pain doesn't go away. Like it's always going to be sore. It just so happens the loads on deadlifts are so much higher than loads for snatches and clean and jerks. And the fact that the lift goes on for so much longer as well. So the pain doesn't really go away. You just get better at dealing with it.
Will
My God.
Isoleto pull a rat mouth on Lou? Will he switch his piss like, hey?
Hey!
No. I think it's going to be a good old battle between the two of them. I hope Brit Fars comes in a good condition.
Yeah.
It's really hard to know. He could be in the mix. I think people are kind of forgetting about him right now. But I think good old Lou will just pull through. Lou has the experience of 2 prior Olympics. Nino, I don't think has been to the Olympics yet. I could be wrong. He has a medal at the Olympics. But I think we're in a position where I think Lou is likely to... Lou has pulled it out of the bag enough times. Now he's obviously missed it a few times too, so that's certainly there. But I think it'll be a good battle. My money would probably be on Lou. Just if the odds were in favour, it'd be Lou. I'd say realistically, I'm not if you're a bookies. But you know, I like Lou. But it'd be nice to see. Might be nice to see Nino win. You know.
Nino.
Nino.
Big fan of the Italians.
It'd be nice to see it because it'd be great for European weightlifting if European weightlifter like Nino won. Because obviously he's a clean athlete, but
anyway, and the lads are talking about swimmers again. So thanks very much for giving your suggestions. We will throw those up on the. We'll try and do that video next week if we can. Okay.
Squats and deadlifts. Do squats carry over deadlift strength? Yes.
Yes. Doesn't happen the opposite way around as much.
No, it
but
does not.
By God, does it happen for squats?
The deadlift doesn't really have anything, really.
I go so far to say if you put 25 kilos onto your squat, you put 20 kilos onto your deadlift. Possibly more.
My deadlifts have definitely gotten stronger, and I have not been heavy deadlifts.
Yeah. I deadlifted 210 last night after not deadlifting in 2 years, and I genuinely feel like I could have just done my PB.
Do you know when people are like, oh, you know, Juji Murphy's on about like the 320 kilo deadlift?
Yeah.
I'd say, like, in good shape, I do 300 kilos. I don't see how much more 320 would be unless things get exponentially heavier.
Yeah, they don't.
Hayden, we got someone to a 700 pound deadlift.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, actually.
Yeah.
Hayden deadlift to 320 yesterday, which was over 700 pounds. So, just saying, if Juji ever does need that hand, we've literally got N of 1. We've got this.
1 equals 1. Okay.
10 pounds. Your man Florence is pretty juice.
Yeah. Okay. Arm pull-ups and chin-ups a good way to strengthen the upper back, mid-back for a heavier athlete. I can do 8 reps. It depends where you mean in your upper back. If you want lots of lat strength, definitely the pull-up variations are very, very good. Chin-ups don't target the back in the same way a pull-up will, you know, especially a pull-up with a wider grip. In particular, for strengthening the upper back, it's important to note that when you're doing a pull-up, you're obviously adducting your arms, but you're also internally rotating your shoulders. And most of us who have issues with our mid and upper back, in terms of like posturally, it's an issue of internally rotating our shoulders. So if I'm doing loads of pull-ups and a stronger upper back, and then I'm then losing my posture because of that. I'm doing myself in two separate ways. What you need to think about with your upper back is like, obviously it's a postural thing. So a lot of the stuff we need to be doing is externally rotating our shoulders, extending our mid and upper back. So things like seal rows, things like unsupported dumbbell cheater rows, unsupported pendlay rows. All of these things are going to be really, really good for getting a stronger mid and upper back. But it's important to note that the pull-up can be used, but the pull-up will also internally rotate our shoulders, which won't really help in terms of upper back strength per se.
We change seal rows or rows.
Oh,
I never tell
like
anyone.
that.
Just never tell anyone either what's going on. I think I'm convinced barbell rows are the best thing for upper back.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything better.
No, I think single arm cheater rows are better. You know how much I love them.
I don't
Did you
think
get
they're
that?
better. I'm not convinced. Does the snatch eventually ever start to feel good practice? My clean after a few months of my snatches. Okay, yes, it does if you're a good athlete eventually.
Yeah,
so
definitely does.
after about 10 years, it'll start to feel better. And I'm not even joking you. I'm genuinely not joking you. After about 10 years, it'll start to feel quite good. Up until then, it's touch and go.
Yeah,
really
it feels
touch and
good
go.
for a few weeks and then go away again.
I'm not joking about 10 years. Like I'm genuinely
No.
not joking. People think I think we're saying it on the cheek, but genuinely, give it 10 years and then come back to me and I can answer your question assuredly then.
Okay, tips for lowering the bar from a snatch overhead position back into the hip safely for hang reps. Felt a tweak in my low back when doing this during the warm-up sets yesterday. Hadn't happened prior. I think, and you might have a different view on this, I think the most important thing you do when you're bringing down a jerk or bringing down a bar to the hip, so obviously you want to pre-bend your knees, right? But when you're bringing the bar down, it's important you come up to meet the bar. So like, people are good at bringing the jerk down will like bend the small, but they come up into it and then they fall down at the same height or at the same speed as the jerk. It's very important you don't like pre-bend your knees and then just drop it in and hope that the bend is going to take it. You have to pre-bend your knees, come up to meet the bar, and then bring it back down again. It's very difficult to.
You use a lot of pause snatches. I'm just thinking
Yeah,
pause snatches and
I
hang
just need to
snatches.
do this. Snatches.
You see some waves then.
Okay. Plateaued at 125, 155. Hell yeah, brother. Know the feeling. How much Sea water do I need to drink for 140, 180?
As much as possible.
As much as you can. Like, tank it all day, every day. Don't stop drinking it. Once you piss it out, drink more in again.
So interestingly, with last time we touched on, if you get to like 120, 150, you're doing great. If you can get into 130s, 160s, you've got an opportunity. You've got a future to grow more again. If you get beyond the 120s, 150s, 160s, if you can get into those numbers, you've got places to go. And I've seen a lot of lifters, good lifters, who get to like the 120s and the 150s, but getting into the 160s and 130s is very, very difficult. So if you get into there, if you get beyond that plateau, usually if you can get to those 120s, 150s, you have a good chance, you have a great chance to get into 130s and 60s. So just, Paddy,
Hang on in there.
just hang on. There's a great chance you can be a good lifter. You can get beyond that. So just keep training and
Keep it on.
like 140, 180 is not impossible, Paddy.
No.
If you can get to 125, 155, genuinely. And like, we chat people down a lot, like, so I've been saying this, you know.
You're the first compliment we've given today, I'd say, is
ever,
it?
I'd say.
Except that Jack swimmer we were talking about. How do I make the split more stable and longer so that you are lower?
Right, lower is not what you
Holy
want.
Low.
Lower is Coley blue.
You couldn't be thinking about the wrong thing.
So wider is more stable in
Yeah.
split jerk. So landing wider is better, but lower is not what you want to do in the split jerk. Higher, always catching higher in the split jerk is better. The minimum amount of your body drop is what you want to be aiming for, because the lower you get, the more unstable you're getting, and the longer you are, the more unstable you're getting. So you need to be going wider, faster, and maybe even shorter. So getting lower is not the answer.
The other answer is you need to be doing way more practice. So for the last 15 minutes of every training session, every day you train 15 minutes, empty bar split jerks, 40 kilo split jerks. Keep hammering it, keep doing it, keep going over and over and over again. Does growing a beard improve your strength, or does improved strength generate an exceptional beard?
I wonder if strength training actually does. I know he's joking, but I wonder if strength training does actually help your beard. Probably, maybe, possibly.
I get it.
I've got, as a beginner, how do you know what type of jerk suits you best? I'll tell you right now, it's the split
It's
jerk.
a split jerk. Stop looking for anything else.
Amy's, it's just a split jerk.
In that video today, we talked about it.
We did.
Like, nobody is special. Nobody is the exception. And thank God.
Yeah. Because
if you're special and you're the exception, actually, somebody just commented, it's the split jerk.
Did they fuck?
Yeah.
Where's that? I can't see.
Hollywood.
Yes.
Yes.
As someone says.
Okay.
On the podium.
30, just started lifting. Biggest struggle for me is building upper body muscle and strength. Should I do additional gym bro exercises? Absolutely. Everyone should be doing them. Nobody should be doing just the classics, really. Everyone should be doing little pumping, little pressing. Yeah, absolutely should be. I think the gas is. I don't know what he's talking about. Do either of you have recommendations? Oh my God, my screen is red. Do either of you have any recommendations or use any fitness trackers or smartwatches? No.
I believe the iWatch. The
Apple Watch.
Why didn't they call it the iWatch?
That was iWatch.
Apparently, it's very, very good. Usually, Garmin are very, very. They're the kind of the outdoorsmen's watches, or the people who exercise outdoors a lot. I see Garmin. I see people like Clive and stuff use Garmin a lot, and they seem to have those functions. So if you're looking for a big box, they're quite expensive, but they do have the kind of what you call it? They have the backing, like they have
the gravitas.
They have the repetition.
You mentioned in the previous video, if you can't snatch 100 kilos within the first 12 months of lifting, you won't progress. Does that apply to masters? I'm 75% at 9 months. I'll be 37 next month. No, it absolutely doesn't. This is like something we throw out there as being like, if you want to be a really, really good lifter, or like if you want good numbers. Yeah, no, but if somebody just wants to lift and have fun, they don't have to give up. And it absolutely doesn't apply to masters lifters. It obviously doesn't apply to female lifters. It obviously doesn't apply to youth lifters. It's just a general rule of thumb, right? If you're at 75 kilos now after 9 months, 75 kilos could be phenomenal for some person. If another person has been strength training for years and is really powerful, they're only at 75, might be a great sign. But look, it's all about just enjoying training, enjoying what you're doing, going and improving all the time, progressing. That's the most important thing.
Best bar below.
You skipped it.
Awesome, thanks.
No, the one before that.
What's the one before that? Oh, how to last longer in bed and not putting out of breath. I feel like the blood is going to stay.
Few comments this like.
Train, I'd imagine. We can answer the lower back one already.
Yeah.
I struggle with hang and pause snatches with weights. I find easier than normal snatches. How would you address this? I can see how Roderick ended up with the way he is. Oh, well, you know what you do. Just do more hangs and pause. If you are bad at them, just do more of them. So you address this. And I appreciate the question. I appreciate you're like, maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe this is too obvious. Maybe this is too good to be true. But I honestly, you just need to do more of them. If you're bad at them, do more hangs and pause snatches. That's the answer to that question. Unfortunately, I'm not laughing at you. Just laughing at the subject, right? I'm not laughing at anyone. We're never laughing at anyone.
Okay.
Something.
Thoughts on Shaq Harley Richardson's positive for marijuana leading up to the Olympics?
I think it's a cover-up.
You looked it up, did you?
I think so. Apparently, she was tipped to be the first American female to win the sprinting since like '96.
Oh my God! It's absolutely a cover-up.
So it's just a cover-up. She's obviously
I just got popped for something else.
Paid some money. I need to talk to Zach about this and rub it in his face. Actually,
yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
On the point of getting popped for marijuana, like current WADA standards for marijuana use in competition, and don't quote me on this, but current standards are basically like you have to be high when you're being tested. Like the levels are huge, you know, they've basically made it so you can't get popped for marijuana anymore. It's just so unlikely unless they came to her house at like 11 o'clock at night and she was actually off her head when she got tested. This screams cover up.
Yeah, I'm just posting a nasty story there.
Screams it. How do you recover from a bad training day, week, month, year, etc.? Go to Seek a Psychology, and there's a video called "Dealing with the Bad Times" or something. But in it, very, very quickly, right? Bad times in training can come about from a number of ways. The first way and the most obvious way is you stop seeing progression. Yeah, I got a hiccup there. You stop seeing progression. You're focusing on the numbers. You're focusing on the outcome all the time, right? Weightlifting is our like training and sports in general are pretty unfair things, right? The troughs outweigh the peaks 1,000 to 1. You're gonna have a hell of a lot more bad days than you will good days in terms of the outcomes. And it's really important that you start understanding the process of training. You start understanding that training is always sub-maximal and that you will very, very, very rarely have big peaks in training. And you need to just think to yourself that like, okay, I understand this is how it's going to be for most of the time I'm here. So now I can go to training, I can be 40 kilos under my maximum, but this is all part of me getting better. That is the first thing I would start looking at for being recovering from bad training days, weeks, months, years. Obviously, when you're at the point of months or years, it's a bit more serious, and you should probably start looking elsewhere for a bit of help.
No question. Much love for the content from Cornwall UK. Thanks, Jed.
Someone after you 100 grand not to lift any weights
No.
again for a year. Would you take it? I would take it all day long. I'd actually take it for Garth.
You'd be up to 200 grand at the moment.
I'd be up 200 grand, like. I'd absolutely would.
No way, I wouldn't.
No, like.
There's not enough money. Generally.
You see, the thing is, Garth wouldn't, right? And then you get home and his missus would be like, oh, you're absolutely not lifting weights. You can
I wouldn't. Generally not.
You can become a judo lifter. Okay. Does Q'n'A solve its athletes' problems by giving them more drugs?
But then we covered up and say it was a cannabis test. But you saw the test as everyone. Fuck off.
Those of you who think USADA or WADA in general are above cover-ups, need to take a serious look at yourself.
Have you met the American government?
Yeah.
My front squat is super low compared to my back squat when I'm approaching my max front squat with my clean.
Should I stop back squatting while I increase my front squat?
Why would that help your front squat?
Why would that? Why?
Go stop.
Please, lads, we're doing our very best here now. On a serious note, right? It's Friday afternoon. We've videoed it.
Yeah.
We're doing our level best to answer these questions. But why would you stop back squatting if you wanted to get a bigger front squat? You just front squat more
and
keep back squatting.
The biggest driver of your front squat is you bringing up your back squat. So you bringing up your front squat is done by practicing front squats and then bringing up your back squat more. No back squatting. Stop back squatting will not help your front squat.
We're going to answer 2 more questions, then we have to go. What the fuck is a Garth? Nobody knows.
Albu says starting strength. I read that as seeking strength, and I was like, that's weird. Yeah, starting strength. No.
How many days a week is powerlifting program? 4 days per week, 4 weeks per block. Accessory work included. Okay.
Walk at own jerk and post-retirement clock off levels of juice. I don't know.
I don't know. I could not put a number on that.
If I just did split jerks, if I blocks.
If you just did blocks.
Yeah.
You have to understand that baby Garth jerked 180 off blocks after a few months. I've never come across anything like it.
I genuinely don't know. Maybe 230.
If you didn't do anything else
yeah.
except front squat and jerk from the rack.
Yes.
You're talking about inconceivable levels of jerk.
So I've done 200 from behind the neck with a power jerk before, and that's the most I pushed.
And not training that. You just did that in training one day.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question.
Okay. Thanks for watching, guys.
Is it me? Oh my God. I'm dying as hard, so we have to go. Oh, we have to answer this question. Someone says, "You idiot."
No, go on.
So Mika says, hi, do you know what Sika means to finish? Fucking sure do, because every Finnish person tells us it means pig.
Does it?
Yeah. Have you not seen that? All the time. Anytime any Finnish person sees it, they're like, do you know Sika means pig in Finnish? I do. And you know who cares?
Not this guy.
Not this guy.
And not that guy.
No. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks, guys.